All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to MMB Performance Podcast, and we have a new guest on today. He's been on it a couple times. This is back when, man, it's probably been a year or two of different times that we've done interviews with Lu. And, when it was the What's Your Story podcast, where we kind of dove deep into his story a little bit, his journey, and it's kind of a full backstory on him. So before we dive into this one, if you want to learn more about Lu in a very in-depth podcast, if you go back into this, you're going to see a big interview, kind of his full journey to get to where he was today. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper onto some different topics, some different mindset stuff, and just a few different things that we didn't touch on in the other podcast. But I'm excited to talk to Lu. He's got an awesome story and someone that has been a huge supporter of me over the years. So anytime I get to talk to him, I'm definitely excited. So Lu, welcome to the podcast, bro.
Great to be back on, and good to be sitting with the beast himself. We're
I'm just
always
trying to be like you, Lu.
uh, iron sharpens iron. We're always talking about how you always say keep being a beast, and you've definitely put that on display. The whole time that I've known you, and it's just good to be back on here, and good to chat about just things in general, life in general, and just how to make the most of the 24 hours and the 365 days that we have in each year. So.
For sure, dude. And I appreciate you coming on. And I think every time we have a conversation, it's always a good one. It's something, I think over the last 7 years, we've stayed in touch. And I feel like the biggest reason is because we see eye to eye on a lot of things, especially the mindset stuff. And I feel like a lot of people, man, whether it's just, not believing in themselves or not willing to push themselves to the next level. And I feel like a lot of those people struggle with those things. And I feel like we've stayed close because, I think we're always trying to improve. We're always supporting each other. We have that positive attitude, that accountability, that the lack of victim mentality. I think that those are some of the few things that have kept us close because, I think a lot of people struggle with those, and it's something we've done pretty well. When it comes to your journey, Lu, for people that don't know, just to brief a few things up, born with cerebral palsy, right? So that was something, when I first met you, we talked about a little bit, but something that hasn't defied you at all. Like, for you, it's just what you've known. It's not been anything more than just the life that you've lived. And it hasn't stopped you from continuing to push yourself and find your limits. And I think that's something I've respected the most about you is where, I think why we've connected too at the beginning is I see a lot of people that have a lot going for them, but aren't grateful what they have. And they have this really victim mentality mindset, and they struggle to just accept that like they have control of their life, and they struggle with continuing just to move forward, and don't realize that they have that ability. For you growing up, Lu, what has been the thing that has always kind of kept you pushing forward or continuing to just not let life control you and you can kind of control your life? Because I know we all have adversities, including you, but you've always had this really good outlook on life, I think. Where do you think that came from?
Definitely the way I was brought up. I mean, my parents and my support system have been my everything. I haven't gotten to where I am because of what I've done. It's been a collective effort and a cohesive just way of just taking things on. And it's really interesting you say that, and like the way you asked it, because honestly, like growing up, I feel like childhood into like adolescence and even early adulthood, like I always lived by the mentality that like I'm no different than anyone else. Like I could do whatever I want. Like I could do whatever I put my mind to. That's kind of the way I was brought up. Actually, not kind of the way, that was the way I was brought up. And now I've kind of shifted that a little bit, where I kind of keep that going. But the way I've kind of aligned my own goals, it has been more of like, how far can I push this thing? And like by this thing, I mean my body. Like
Yeah.
I always love pushing the envelope for goals, and just for doing things that I've always dreamed of doing. But now like my goals are like out of my wheelhouse. Like if I find something challenging, like I automatically just like jump on it and I get like obsessed with it. And I just love being in that. I'm not going to take the word the credit for describing it this way, but I heard it on an interview that I listened to with somebody famous that I found impactful, but they described it as like being in the pain cave. And like when you're in the pain,
Courtney Del Walder, she talked, we've discussed this a little, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no,
the
you're
pain cave, but Courtney Del Waller or Del Weiler, Ultra Endurance Alley, she talks about the pain cave. So it might have been a clip of her or someone talking about her.
maybe, but like that always that like fascinated me because it resonated with me. And I'm just like, yeah, like the pain cave is where I love to be. Like when things get hard, like when your body starts to shut down on you, like that's that's what I'm there for. Like I love that. And I don't know, like I've always loved pushing my body, but like once you feel what that feels like one time, like it's just something that you it's not why you work out, but it certainly is an incentive for like wanting to push things because it's just an amazing feeling to be able to be beyond what the body can can take and just all mindset. Like it's unreal. And like I said, there's definitely probably a tie to like, you know, some chemical release in the brain and like just an addictive like kind of drive to it because it's you either like it or you either love that feeling or you don't. And if you love it, like I mean, I'm sure you can definitely relate. There's nothing like it. There's nothing being beyond what the body can take and just being ready to just go.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that the things that we do, whether, especially the physical goals, the races, you're overcoming adversity with wrestling and being consistent in that journey and the process. It's not easy. And I just had this talk with a client of mine that it's kind of tough because they basically weren't willing to accept to an extent that there was that it isn't going to be easy and there's no perfect time, and they're awesome. They're an awesome person. So I'm not saying this to, put them down, but I do think it's important. And we talked about this. So she understands is that it's never going to be easy. There's always going to be hard times. It's never going to be perfect, but that part of the journey and the process is what's going to get you to the goal or get you to where you want to be. And that's where you're going to learn the most about yourself. Yes, for example, like my race I just did. Yes, like the day I learned a ton about myself, but like the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles and workouts and runs and things that you don't want to do at times, even if you love it. Like I don't love running. Like I have a guy I just talked to, he loves running. I don't love running, but I love the feeling when I'm done, the accomplished feeling after doing it, the satisfaction and the gratitude I have that man, like look what I accomplished. And that's what drives me is just seeing what I'm capable of, to your point, where, you know, how much can you tolerate? How far can you push yourself? And there's something really satisfying about doing that and finding out what you're capable of. Because I think most people don't even realize the untapped potential that they have. And when things get a little harder, a little difficult, I think it's easier to just make an excuse and quit than actually put your nose to the grindstone or whatever you want to call it and dig deep and get through that. And I think that's where people really need to put more of their energy and focus into is to do things that are hard, to do things that challenge them. Because if you don't do that, if you're not willing to get uncomfortable, you're not going to grow, you're not going to learn what you're actually capable of. And I think that's what scares me the most. And why I actually put too much pressure on myself at times is I can't fathom, 20, 30 years from now sitting there and being like, wishing I did this or wishing I did that. And that scares me. But that also pushes me to see what I'm capable of because that's just, I don't want to leave anything in the tank. And I don't know if you're similar to like that. I would assume you are just because I know you pretty well. But for you, is it that same effect of like why you push yourself? Because you just want to find your limits and like that regret of not knowing what you could have accomplished?
Definitely with me, partially. 'Cause, like I said, it, it's never going to be perfect. Like I said, there's nothing being beyond what the body can take and just all mindset. Like it's partially but I just love like finding new passions and just being able to just see how far I can go.
Yeah.
Because like I like I know my body's not gonna move like this, for forever. And partially I don't want to regret anything, but I just want to be able to look back and like help other people. And because like I'm hoping that, in my years down the road, like there are gonna be people that are, pushing themselves like with CP, without CP, whatever it is. But I definitely just want to be able to use kind of my experiences and help other people. The same way many people over the years have helped me. I just want to be able to give back and pay it forward to other people. And without kind of taking myself to that next level, you know, I will always wonder, what I could have achieved, what avenues could have opened up from it. Because physically the accomplishment's cool, but I think one of the biggest things is also the connections that you kind of meet through through taking those next levels. Anyone or most people at least can kind of reflect on their lives, and there are times where things don't really go as we plan or as we kind of dreamed. But you know, if you look back, you think about how things may not have happened the way that we wanted them to, but they happened the way that they were supposed to, because you meet people along the way, and some of those people, a lot of those people actually become real close to you and kind of inspire you in your journey, and give you a new look on life and a elevated kind of level of appreciation for the climb.
It's funny you bring that up because I think it's really hard, at least for me, to look at myself potentially how other people look at me, or because you for me, I put a ton of pressure on myself to have certain goals and expectations and a certain standard that I want to hold, whether it's fitness and is business or whatever that may be. And I think it's interesting because I think being more grateful or less, beating yourself up so much, is something I think everyone needs to do more of. But when you get someone that reaches out and sends you a message on Facebook or Instagram, or like, something along those lines, it's like you're crushing it, like just want to let you know, like, I appreciate you posting this, or like, yeah, I've been following you for a while and you've been crushing it and it's inspirational. And I think it's like you have this own perception of yourself and you don't realize like what you're doing, other people could be watching, even though you're posting and doing stuff, like just to your point, the impact you're making in other people's life, sometimes without even having conversations. And that's just you pushing yourself and showing yourself what you're capable of. And all those people being impacted along the way. And then for me, these races, to your point exactly, is the community of people. In just these last 3 podcasts I did, of all these people I met in the last 3 to 6 months, and they've inspired me. Is just why I wanted to talk to them. And these crazy endurance athletes and all these people have such an incredible mindset, and I connect with them so well because they all just want to be the best person they can be, and through that is endurance and is in Ironmans and all this kind of stuff. So it's crazy how the more you push yourself, the better attitude you have, the better mindset you have, the more positive you are. You start to naturally surround yourself with these people, and by pushing yourself and being part of these things, you start to build that community of people that falls into place of you start to who you surround yourself with is who you end up becoming. And in the better headspace you have, you naturally start to build that community of people. um, you brought up a thing brought up when you were talking about like trying to make an impact and helping people. Is that why you initially went to school for teaching, and going down that road? Because just you have like not only you're trying to inspire people by pushing yourself physically, but you kind of went to school to be teaching. Is that the kind of same aspect?
Kind of. I mean, I've always you know, loved school. You know, some of the most impactful people in my life have been teachers and coaches. All the way up through K to 12, all the way, to post-secondary education and just, even now. So honestly, I just loved the environment and I loved the environment that kind of they created. And going back to that, like I just, I wanted to continue to pay it forward, and just do something that I love. Like I've always loved, I've always loved learning, and I've always loved like teaching people, and just being able to be in a classroom and be able to draw draw connections with students, help them kind of achieve their goals, academically or whatever the case may be. Kind of drove me into teaching. Initially, it was I mean, kind of still is my dream, but my kind of lens has cha- not changed, but diverted a little bit in order to where I will be most successful. Initially, I was dreamed about being a phys ed teacher, but the physical side of things definitely was much more than I thought it would be. So kind of um, kind of made me divert my road a little bit, not in a negative way, definitely in a positive way, and kind of led me to you know, where I am today, and kind of where I've decided to take my goals from here. But not to completely reroute from your question, but yeah, giving back and just paying it forward was one of the reasons why I got into teaching. And it's been a little bit of a longer journey, taking me a little bit longer to get to where I want to be as a teacher, but that impact definitely has been started, and the people I've met, colleague wise and just coworker wise, have definitely made all of those kind of detours worth it. Because like I said, you meet people along the way for a reason, and they change your life and leave those lasting impacts on who you are, and motivate you day in and day out, whether they know it or not.
Wrestling's been a big passion of yours for a while, and that's something I know that has made an impact in your life, and it's been a big part of meeting people and community and reaching out and helping others. When did you actually get into wrestling? One, and then part two, what is it about wrestling that you love so much?
Honestly, just well, to answer the first part, I got into it in high school. Didn't make the team my first 3 years, but made it a goal to get out there. Initially made the team, my senior year, and it's been a love of mine ever since. I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, with actually one of my best friends as my coach, and one of my biggest inspirations. So the wrestling kind of led into the jujitsu side of things, and one of the biggest things I love about it is just the accountability piece, and the way that you can always get better. Um, Initially, one of the reasons why I love competing in wrestling is because there's no one else out there on the mat with you, that you can kind of blame, when you lose, say your first 27 matches, like in my case. Um, no one's out there. I mean, you have the ref, and there's you and your opponent, and you're most certainly not going to, sit there and blame your opponent that you lost. So it really holds yourself accountable, and you have two options. You can either let it kind of bring you down, let it break you down, or you can just go back, reevaluate, and there's a famous quote. Again, I don't know who said it because I'm terrible with names of people who said things.
Sure.
But whoever said the quote, you either win or you learn. So wrestling is exactly that. You either win or you learn. And even when you win, you can still see where you need to improve. And even when I got my first win, one, I don't take any credit for it. It's something that my coaches helped me achieve. So all credit goes to them because without them, um, I would not have been able to achieve it. So shout out to my coaches, Nick and Roger, and my teammates at Fighting Arts Academy, Connecticut, in Milford, Connecticut. Shout out to them. Um, Without you guys, I wouldn't have been able to achieve that goal. And all the credit goes to you guys for it, as well as all the progress I've made in my jujitsu journey as well. But yeah, just embracing the journey, learning from it, and just loving the people that you have in your life and appreciating their impact. Because, like I said, without without the village of people that you have around you in any aspect of life, um, you know, you have nothing. So, shout out to my coaches, especially. You guys are my heroes and my biggest mentors. So,
It's true, dude. It's a lot of these things, especially individual sports, you are the one that's actually doing the role. Like, whether it's you doing jujitsu, you doing your race. For my example, like, this my big race this past year, specifically at World's Toughest Mudder. Um, I was a little disappointed in the aspect that I didn't treat, I feel like, my team as well as I should have. That being said, I was in massive sleep deprivation. But the support I had from my uncle, Matt, that came down, to my wife, to Kat, having that support system of every lap, like being there, waiting a half hour, because who knows how long I'm on the course for at the checkpoint to get there. And then, Kat, literally, as I turned the corner, like cheering me on every time. I got Matt and my wife, like, have like the bag of gummies and the goos and like things ready for me. And they're just standing out there for, realistically, like they're there for 30 hours or 30. And it's just like, every lap they're there for me. They're focused. It's more about me than it is about them. And I think I was grateful for having them there. But on the hindsight 2020, looking back, like, it's like they basically put all their needs aside to just make sure I could get through this. And I think it plays into, like you said, with your coaches, of having a team or a support system that's trying to help you, trying to push you, trying to get you better, and then wants to see you succeed, is huge in anything. And I think it's easy for a lot of people to not be able to have that, or struggle to have that. And I think part of that goes back into that headspace and that mindset of what we say out loud, and what kind of mindset we have, focusing on a growth mindset, focusing on what we can control, focusing on the positive, not being negative as much as we can, or at least not speaking that into existence, or complaining or playing poor me, because it's hard to build a community of supportive, positive people if you're not projecting something that people want to be around in the first place. And I think, to your point, because you've been so um, caring and optimistic and positive and smiling and energetic since the day I met you, right? You're going to draw more people to you that want to be around you, that want to support you, that want to be in that circle. And I think that's what, we're not always all happy. We're not always motivated. We're not always, everything isn't always going well in our own life, but to not take that out on everybody else or just complain, I think is important, which I think a lot of people can take value in that. um, when you brought up a cool piece, and we talked briefly about this before, is when you went, that 27 matches where you lost. Most people probably wouldn't have made it to 5 or 10 before they're like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to get judged. I don't want to keep losing. And all these things go through, I'm sure, a lot of people's head, and maybe even you at some point. But what kept you pushing from, loss after loss, knowing at some point you were going to win? Because I think that struggle, or that challenge, or that journey relates to a lot of people. They have one failure in business, one failure at work, one failure at school, failed relationship, failed whatever. And I think that stuff all plays into the same mindset you probably need to have to get from point A to point B.
yeah, I mean, for me, definitely, it was more of like you've wanted this for a long time. Now you're here. So you've you obviously compete because you love competing, but no one likes to lose. And like your first goal, at least for me as an athlete, was to win, to be a champion. And like everyone says, oh yeah, you're a champion for just stepping out there. But like if my goal or any athlete's goal is to win and to be a champion on a scoreboard, then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get good at this and I'm gonna get at least one win. Like in wrestling, I sucked. Like my first match, I remember getting cradled and looking over at my high school coach at the time. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not supposed to be here. Like on this mat right now with my shoulders pinned to the mat. Like this is not what we went over. And um, I just kept going at it. And when I first started, it was just all about the opportunity, like to compete, just getting the opportunity and embracing the opportunity. And I didn't know, like, I didn't have any idea of quitting. Um, and then I just fell in love with the process, and I just loved how I felt physically. So wrestling for me has been like the biggest form of physical therapy. And then it carried over into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. They're very, very similar in the way that they kind of made my body feel in a positive way. Um, so you're wrestling around and grappling around for 3 hours. Most people would be like, "Oh my goodness, like I'm sore, like I'm tired. This is terrible." Like by the end, like for me, one, I love just being out there and I just love scrapping and giving all I got. But then afterward, like walking away, all my muscles are nice and they're sore, but like they're loose and it's kind of like free chiropractic in a way.
There you go.
You're obviously, you want to be smart about it, but you're getting tossed around and beat up and things are loosening up. But yeah, man, just falling in love with the process and trusting the process and just embracing the opportunity that I have. And just going back to like the impact that people kind of have, on on your life and stuff, and just being a part of your journey. Uh that's been huge for me. Um so many people have come into my life and touch my life in very, very um magical ways. You know not to go on like a long rant, but things most things I've done, I haven't been successful on the first try. um seems like for me that like having to give things 9, 10 tries definitely has just it's just been the way that things are for me. It's not a bad thing. It's kind of just something that I've not accepted, because obviously, I give my all, and I don't kind of lean on that saying, oh yeah, well, it's not going to work out the first time anyway. That's not the mindset I'm having here. But things happen in with 9 and 10 attempts, for a reason. So with teaching, I wasn't very, very great at teaching. You know, at first, I had to keep reevaluating, keep readjusting. And one of my biggest mentors and one of my heroes, um, that I credit so much of, in my success, was um, the person that I ran my 10K with. And one of the reasons why I wanted to uh, run the 10K was obviously to get myself out of my comfort zone, but also to do something that was out of my comfort zone, alongside her. And one of the reasons why I picked a 10K as opposed to a 5K was because I knew that it would be, an enjoyable experience, an inspiring experience for me, and for her. She told me this later. But I wanted to do something with someone that was super, super close to me and super, super influential in my life. And I picked a 10K because a 5K would be too short, and I really didn't want you know, want the race to kind of fly by. Um, but just goes to show that like people come into our lives, and they come in at a certain time, not when we think that we need them, but when when God knows that we need to meet these people, and they become very very close to you. Um, but yeah, just going back to that whole experience, the 10K was probably one of the best feelings ever, because I was able to run it with someone that means the absolute world to me. And I knew that it was going to be tough, but I knew that I could accomplish it because I had uh, my friend alongside me. And again, my hero alongside me that was going to be there every step of the way. And it just goes back to that sacrifice piece, like you were saying, like people sacrifice time, effort. We were the last two people to cross that finish line, and she didn't have to, run those 6.2 miles with me, but she did, and it's something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And going back to the people that you can reach through just through just day to day and just living out the journey. There's people that I've kind of gotten to know and connected with, even in like the social media realm, on Twitter and Instagram and things, that have showed me more support and more and you don't even have to take this part out because I want to leave it in here, but definitely leave this part in here. There's people that have kind of showed me more support and more love on the social media end of things than than my ex-girlfriends have in, in person. So you know and there's one person I could think of. I'm gonna shout her out because she's probably gonna listen to this podcast. Um, this a friend of mine that I follow on Twitter and Instagram, named Sarah. We connected over Twitter, and we're both big Giant fans. But she has told me multiple times that she kind of inspired me over the years. Um, and well, we're probably coming up on like a year of friendship, but maybe longer. Anyhow, it's not about when it starts. It's about the long term run of the friendship and the inspiration. But she has kind of been someone that I've reached out to and stayed connected with through the ups and the downs. Physically and relationshiply and all that other good stuff that comes with life. But yeah, man, the impact that she's had, like I said, miles away, um, it's special how just how people are meant to come into your journey at a particular time and kind of stay there forever. So
And
yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because I have I don't have a big social media platform, but it's interesting. I don't have a lot of people I hang out with. I mean, it's in 7 years of me and Bree being together, she can probably count on it like one hand how many people I've actually hung out with in person, um, like to go out and like just hang out and do something. But I have a million relationships online, and it's interesting because some of these people I've never even met. And to your point, exactly, it's not really about how long the friendship's been, or it's not about how often you even hang out. But if you can find these people that are like-minded, that want the best for you and that are supportive, um, I think that's the most important piece, because you can kind of pick up a conversation, or even if it's been a year since you talked, and it's not like a fake thing where I think sometimes, I've had friends growing up over the years and we grew apart because we're just different now. Our mindsets are different. And that's why I don't hang out with a lot of people, is because I just try to surround myself with like-minded people. And it's not that I'm not someone's friend anymore, but like the amount of time I spend with them is significantly less, or even talk to them, because there's really like we grew apart. There's really nothing there anymore that we can relate with. And especially if they're not in a good headspace. Because to me, that's everything. I don't want to hear you complain about everything going on in your life. Can you vent to me as a friend and talk about some challenges you're going through? Of course. But I'm not going to sit here and just every time you pick up the phone, you're just going to bitch about everything going on in your life. And then a year later and a year later, it's the same shit all over again. I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to be in your life if that's going to be the case, because you're dragging me down and I'm doing everything to help and you're not changing your life. And I think that's where people have to be willing to change and can't expect things to go well for them until they start to take care of themselves first, because no one wants to be around the person that's complaining all the time, and the people you're going to end up around are the ones that are just going to be complaining all the time, and that's going to be the problem. I know it, and I've brought this up a few times already in the podcast, but it's such an important thing for me. And I think the vibes that you put out, the energy that you put out is going to get people to surround you with positivity and support. And if you want those kind of people in your life, you got to project it yourself, or you're never going to bring it to you. And you're going to miss out on so many opportunities. I think that's what people don't realize either is, have you ever heard of the red car theory? This is a pretty sweet theory.
No, I have not.
Okay. So red car theory is all about focusing on things that you can control and how they can become reality. And that's just your thought. So like, when's the last time, did you drive somewhere yesterday or today?
No, I haven't really driven anywhere in about 3 days because I've been
Okay.
kind of
So
cooked up. But
like, here's the thing. Like, could you remember if I was like, how many red cars did you see the last time you drove somewhere? Could you pick like a number in your head, or you really have no idea?
uh, I mean, me being the weird like dude I am, I could probably say like I've seen maybe three.
Right. So the funny part is next time you get in a car and if you like put all your energy and focus on how many red cars you see, you're probably going to notice like 15, 20, 25, 30. In the head, you're like, I probably saw a few, but you don't really realize how many you see until you put your energy and focus into it.
Yeah.
And that same logic goes to whatever you put your energy into and focus into, it becomes more your reality. And that's what you're going to be drawn to. So if you're always the car theory is what you focus on becomes true. Is you focus on red cars, you're going to see red cars. But if I ask you if you saw red cars, you don't really see. You're like, maybe a few, maybe not sure. So if you're going to focus on the negative, you're going to focus on the bad in every situation. That's all you're going to be seeing, and that's all you're going to be seeing, and that's all the opportunity is going to come. But if you focus on the positive, you focus on what you can control, you focus on what you want to achieve or the big picture goal, you're going to start to run into situations and opportunities specifically that you never would have seen. You go to a cafe and you're in line and you're just so focused on how miserable you are or how everything's not going well for you.
Yeah.
What if the guy in front of you is having a conversation? Like for me, example, I run a personal training business. The guy in front of me is like talking about fitness and like, he's just like, I really need to like get into shape, but I'm so consumed in myself and miserable. I'm on my phone complaining or just, it's like, you miss that opportunity. But if you start to think about and put yourself in a headspace and focus on the opportunities and focus on the goal, and whenever you're around, like you're going to become aware of so many situations. And it's not that opportunities aren't there. Opportunities are everywhere, but whether they come to fruition or not is if your mindset is in the right spot when those opportunities come, because you could completely miss them. And I think that's a problem people have is if you want to achieve something, you have to talk it into reality and you have to be focused on it and you have to make that your mission. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle is, they're missing. It's not that they're not lucky or don't have opportunities. People that are lucky create the opportunities and they see them because of their headspace. So I think that's a huge thing that goes really unmissed or goes missed, I should say, that people struggle with. So, and I don't know if that's ever happened to you where like, you get, you just catch someone saying something or you have an opportunity happen because you were, being positive or like you meet someone new that you never would have met because of something like you're in a good headspace or like, who knows, like we walk by each other, we're both being like not in a good headspace. Who knows if we have that conversation, you know what I mean? So it's like, so I think it does make an impact. I don't know you can relate to that, but for me, that's a big
Oh,
thing.
absolutely. Like even going back to, you know, when I made the switch from like phys ed to health ed, like
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, like this is, my dream at the time, at the time was something, I was obsessed with. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is it's kind of devastating that, I gotta move on and like not pursue a, you know, career in phys ed at the time. And, a week later, 2 weeks later, I ended up, meeting, you know, who now is one of my biggest mentors and heroes that I ran the 10K with. Um, you know, and from there, like I look back and I'm like, wow, like my switch in majors or direction of my major happened because, I took that leap of faith and it brought me to somebody that I can't picture my life without now. Um, you know, shout out, shout out to just um, you know, to her. I don't want to use her name because I don't have her permission to, but just the looking back on it now, I would do the journey the same way over again because the impact that she has had on me over the years and continues to be a positive source and positive inspiration in my life definitely makes you think about really trusting the process, and being where our feet are. Because while things aren't always, played out to be the way that we plan, like I said before, they're played out to happen the way that they're meant to be. So, we just got to trust the process, stay within our mindset, and just go for gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we have complete control of our reality and our future. Like there's always going to be some roadblocks and things that try to slow you down, but I'm a big believer of like if you want something to happen, in most cases it's possible. Am I going to go to the NBA? I'm not going to the NBA. But like is it possible for me to achieve A, B, C, and D? And I think most people have the ability to do so much. It can be overwhelming. I'm living that now a little bit. So I definitely understand that overwhelming piece, but I'm a huge thing on when you're setting a goal. I'm big on goal setting. We're 4 days away from the end of the year. I think it's important for people to realize that when this comes out, it'll probably be New Year or into the new year. So when you're setting these goals, like I want people to set a goal and a goal that's really big. And I'm stopping because I think people sell themselves way too short. And I know some people say, don't set a big goal because you kind of can set yourself up for failure. It's unrealistic, so on and so forth. I think there's two pieces to this. I think it's important to set a freaking massive goal. I think you should set a goal that scares you and it's huge. And then you should start reverse engineering that goal. So for me, this year was I want to do a 24-hour race. And I've never ran over at this point, I've never ran over 5 hours. So I'm like, okay, let's add 19 hours to this. Like, how's that going to work? Um, but you set a goal so big that scares you, and then you start to break that down. All right, I have 1 year to get ready for this. All right, what can I start doing every month, every week, every day? What are the little things I have to do every day to get to your big goal? And whether it's losing 50 pounds, whether it's running your first marathon, whether it's going back to school, whether it's trying to get promoted, like what are the steps you have to do to get there? And then focusing on those small things every day. And I'm a big advocate of what, even if your goal isn't fitness related, the more you can take care of your health, the more you can work out, the better you can eat, the more sleep that you can get, your quality of life is going to improve, your confidence is going to improve, and your whole life is going to improve. So I think advice I can give people too going to the new year is like if you have a goal, the first step is to focus taking care of yourself, getting yourself healthy, getting yourself in shape, getting your mind right, and then start focusing on the little habits every day to get to your goal that's related to whatever it is, because you're going to feel better all around. And I think that's where people, can get overwhelmed. But like, I don't care if it's going for a walk, getting 10,000 steps every day, tracking your food for a week, for a month or 3 months, whatever it is, like just start doing these little things every day. listen to 15 minutes on an Audible book, read a book for 15 minutes, just something that you can start improving every day on. Even if you're like, I have no idea what my goal is, can you just work on self-development? Because if you start to take care of yourself, all of a sudden opportunities, goals, things that you may never even thought of are going to start to open up because you are taking care of you and your mind's getting stronger. You're starting to build more discipline in your life. And then all of a sudden, maybe to your point, we've brought up multiple times, the community of people you start to surround yourself is different. People notice something different in you. Like all these things all lead up to different opportunities. And I think it's super important. Um, with you, Lou, like, what are like, do you have any goals for this new year coming? Like, I don't know if you're a New Year's goal set person or it's just you're a goal person in general. Because you know, not doesn't necessarily have to be New Year's resolutions, but like, is there any things that you're trying to work for or towards this upcoming year? Whether it's physical, career, or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that. But I just want to piggyback off of what you just said
Sure, go ahead.
about setting, to people and giving, them advice for the new year. Definitely set your goals, like take care of yourself, help yourself develop, but definitely don't shy away from the things that you enjoy. Like in just because you're focused on like, walking every day or, you know, cleaning up your nutrition or, reading 10 pages of a book, like don't don't be afraid to like give yourself those opportunities to like enjoy what you truly love. So for me, like one of my biggest things is I love reading, and sometimes I'm always so focused on doing things that are centered around my goals. So like reading a book for pleasure was always something that I've loved doing, growing up. But these past few years, and I'm literally just getting back into it now, like religiously, like I'm always like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go read a book because like that's what I want to do. And as I'm reading a book, I'm like, oh man, like I'm reading this book, but I could be doing like A, B, and C to
Yeah,
help me get to my goals. Maybe I shouldn't be reading this book. Like, no, you should be reading this book because this is your time to give your central nervous system some rest and to like do something that you enjoy. I feel like sometimes people get so caught up in, and like I'm one of the first people to admit this. Like I get obsessed with my goals. Like
oh, I'm the same. I'm
I,
horrible.
I think about my goals. I think about how I could be doing better. I think about what I could be doing better. Like I'm the most positive dude. Well, I don't want to coin myself this, but I've been told I'm
Hashtag
one.
Lou, the most positive dude.
I, I've I've been told I'm one of the most positive dudes, but like what people don't see and don't like understand is that like I am my own worst critic. So as we're setting like our New Year's resolution goals or just next month goal or next week goal, don't be afraid to like give yourself like you time. You know what I mean? Like time to do things, obviously healthy things, things that will benefit yourself. But if it's things like reading a book or, you know, watching a movie, because a lot of people, I'm more of a book guy, but a lot of people are movie people. I just fall asleep to them. But um, yeah, like don't don't take one thing away because you feel like you don't deserve or have time to like do something that you enjoy. But I wanted to piggyback on that.
Yeah, no, and I'll say one thing before you answer the other question, because I think I'm one of the worst critics, not critics. I'm the worst, one of the worst people when it comes to this, because that same reason I'm successful in certain physical fitness avenues, whether it was the bodybuilding or these races and following through, I do struggle with the business side. I do struggle with things that isn't my bread and butter. And now that have my own business and I'm on my own and trying to build that, you feel like you can't shut off. And I think that's where if I am not doing something to improve at all moments of every minute of every single day, I feel like I'm failing at times or I'm not doing so. It's like, well, I haven't posted or I haven't recruited enough people. I didn't reach out to enough people. I didn't do this. I got to like like, and then you get down this rabbit hole of like, well, I could have been building this for the business, or I could have created a new document here, a new form here. Should I reach out to people I haven't talked to in a few days? It's like you start going down this rabbit hole of all of the things you could do, and you can, and there's a time and place to do it all. But I think for me, the one thing I'm trying to do better, especially this year, is it's not necessarily balance. Because when you're trying to build a business, like there's going to be more time spent on it, but is to learn how to shut off for periods of time. So it's like from this time to this time, I'm working on this 100% complete focus, dedicate the time. From this time to this time, this. And then from 6 p.m. to 9 to the rest of the night, I'm shutting off. I'm gonna, whether you can maybe respond to a few texts, but like you're not hyper focusing, you're not scrolling on social. And I think that's the other issue I have too, is a lot of people have they lose track of time management a little. And I think to your point, not cutting those things out, but making time for everything. I'm going to work for this time to this time. I'm going to watch my movie. I'm going to read my book because that's my mental sanity. It shuts me away from my phone. I'm not scrolling on Insta and social, which I am horrendous with right now because now my business being online, I need to like post, ghost, check in a few times a day, respond to people, but I can't just scroll and scroll and scroll because I find myself doing that. So I definitely understand that how you need to find some sort of balance. And you got to still do the things that you enjoy, and sometimes not taking too much on at once. Set a big goal, but like implement one small new thing at a time instead of like probably me or you, which sometimes I'm like, I'm changing everything. I'm going to flip it overnight and I'm going to try to be the best I can, which then 9 times out of 10 is why people are unsuccessful and fail in my world with their diet, their nutrition, their exercise program, and they quit because they want to go from I've never worked out and I've never tracked my food to I want to track everything and work out 5 days a week. And that shit ain't gonna happen. So
Oh yeah.
not
No,
gonna happen.
I mean, I'm more like I'm all about like the sequential like steps, but I'm also like, people ask me like, oh, how'd you do this? Oh, well, I did this first. I did mentally though, like that's how I tell people I did it. But like before I actually sit down, like pump the brakes and be like, oh, easy there, chief.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm always like, oh yeah, how I do everything or how I do one thing is how I do everything. So like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go all in. And then, I end up going all in. And then, before I hit that wall, I pump the brakes. But because, obviously, the quote, like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So
Sure.
before you hit that wall of like, oh, great, I'm gonna crash and burn again because, I put on too much. Like, I'm like, oh wait, hold on. Remember that time that I told myself I was gonna dial back a little bit, this time? And
Yeah.
you know, then you kind of reevaluate before, you kind of hit that wall. But yeah, it's just kind of just enjoying the process and don't be afraid of achieving what you want to achieve because yes, it's going to look daunting at first, but when you look back and look at how far you've come versus how far you have left to go, like that's the beauty of it.
That's a
Um,
good point, though, to notice that is to actually take the time. So I'm actually going to do this today or tomorrow, and I have a dry erase board over here. I've talked about imagery boards and writing your goals down, and I've kind of done it in small amounts, but I have like a big board. I want to like write like in bold. I want to hang it on the wall. Like these are the goals for this year. My financial goals, my career goals, my relationship goals, my fitness goals, my races, like all this stuff. Um, and I think it's important to like put that out there and write it down and do all that. Man, you just said something. I lost my train of thought, but like that's going to be a big thing is I want to do with the goals this year because I think more people, um, if you can write it on paper, you can talk it into reality. It becomes real, and then once you can make something become real, and to see it every day in front of you, it's you're more apt to accomplishment. I literally think I read something, and this is what you just said. I don't remember where I read it from or saw it from, but it's literally like when you write something down or say it out loud, and like see it every day, it's compared to just like thinking it, it's like 1,000 times more likely to happen.
yeah,
So even if you don't believe it's that 1,000 times more likely, there's enough data and science out there. It's like write it down, start to see it, start to believe it, because the more you see it, the more you believe it, the more reality it's going to be. Speak it out loud, put it into the world. Um, because you're going to start to, even if you're hesitant on it, the more you say it, the more you're going to convince yourself that it's possible. So, like for me, I have some big goals this year. Um, and I want to touch base on this before we come in, kind of one of the last things I want to go into. But like, I know we just discussed this, like you had a goal upcoming this year. I don't know if you want to put that out into the world yet, but there's that piece for
Yeah.
career wise, but also is there any like physical goals that are like new things that you're trying to achieve, or right now is it just to continue to be consistent, like you said, with the jujitsu, with your exercise, with the PT, with all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, for one, like, I'm planning on, well, not planning. I am going back to school, doing an online master's program in special education, starting out in the fall. It's been something that I've always loved, loved the field of special education. I grew up with it, or through it on the student side of things. Um, you know, my mentor and hero that I ran my 10K with, she's huge into into the special education world. Is one of the um, best educators in uh, in the country, in my opinion. So, her impact on me kind of um, helped me sort of look more into it and go after that goal and after that dream. And even with that goal, in the line of work that I currently am working in now, I've started to see that like I need to, I need to go for this because it's been something that I've kind of been putting on the back burner. And you know, after a while, I told you this the other day. I was like, oh, I should probably go back to school for special ed, but I don't know if I should, or I don't know if I'm ready to yet or not. But I have all the qualifications on paper, but I just don't know if it's the right time. Like there is no quote unquote right time. You just
Right.
do it. You may have to do it different ways, different avenues. Like for me, obviously, the physical side of things is going to be huge. I need to maintain the physical gains that I've made over the past 4 years. So, I may have to integrate it into my life and into my schedule, obviously with high priority, but just keeping the non-negotiable pieces, like the physical exercise piece and the wrestling physical and mental piece to it. But that doesn't mean that I won't be able to, tackle on that goal. Um, Physically, obviously, I want to just continue pushing myself and doing things that are very, very, out of my comfort zone. Like last night, I was sitting there thinking about just small things that I could kind of do in a day, and I was thinking about, oh yeah, maybe I can just try going like ice skating. Like
Yeah, I saw that.
there's no reason for me to go ice skating, but like there's no reason for me not to give it a shot. It's just doing something that's out of my wheelhouse, out of my comfort zone. And I want to keep running long distances and just pushing my body as much as I possibly can physically.
Maybe throw a
Eventually,
Spartan in there.
maybe throw a Spartan in there, maybe throw a 13.1 half marathon type deal.
Yep.
Maybe the Hartford Marathon at some point.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about doing even an ice bath. Like
Yeah. Oh, dude, they're I know I got it filled up yesterday, so now it's
my
fresh and ready to roll.
my body seizes up just from being in like the cold with like 4 layers of clothes on. But would I want to do an ice bath for the hell of it? Yeah, I would. Again,
Right.
just living life to the fullest and just seeing how many cool adventures you can get yourself into.
Yeah.
Life is life is an adventure. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's just people that often they're kind of too afraid. And I'm guilty of it too. I get so caught up in like the what ifs, but that's not a it can be a little bit of a bad thing, but it can also be just a reality check of like, yeah, you're saying what if, but in the same breath, like, who cares how long something takes? You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot of my goals in life, like I kind of alluded to before, I know that they're not probably not going to be easy. I know that they're probably not going to happen on the first, you know, on the first attempt, but it doesn't matter how long it takes. You know, it's about enjoying the journey and just taking it step by step and just going after it. And like you always say, just like being a beast and never giving up, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing too, is it's I'm all about planning. I'm all about goal setting. I'm all about setting that big goal and trying to make a plan to get there because that's a big piece. But I think too many of us, including myself, specifically on, more of the business and side of this, because this is new for me, in growing, is that you want everything perfect and you try to plan everything out and you want it to be right and the time has to be right. So you don't act. You're like, I want the perfect workout program. I want the perfect nutrition plan before I start. I want to have every plan possible, like with business. I want it when in reality, I want to do all my research before I go back to school. I'm not going to leave this job till everything's lined up perfect. And yes, like obviously there's situations you want to have a plan implemented for, but I think way too many people don't just do. Like just start doing and figuring things out because until you do something, you're not going to know what's right or wrong. You're not going to know the adversities. You're not going to because you're going to learn throughout the whole process. You start a new nutrition plan, you start tracking. All of a sudden you're like, oh, this is wrong. Let's add this. Let's take away that. Okay. New habits, new routines. You go to the gym. You're like, okay, I don't really know how to do this. I have to learn how to do that. Like, and you start to just figure this whole process out, but it's a learning curve and it's a new routine and it's a new lifestyle. And, I think, you even going back to school talking about that, like you can overthink it too much where like at the end of the day, either you kind of take the shot and do it or you don't. And like you weigh out the pros and cons and there's only so much thinking at the end of the day, I feel like we all kind of know what we want to do to an extent, but the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, like that stuff just gets in our head and messes with us. And I think that's in anything. So I think that's a good advice to give people to your point is just to get started and just start doing and live your life to the fullest. And I will remember this one, Les Brown, I'm going to butcher it, but Les Brown talked about like, when you're at the end of your life and they talk about like in the cemetery, it gets like pretty deep, but he's like, your life's over, you're dead. It's it. And like, you don't want to be there, like, and your spirit comes around and you look around and it's all the unrealized potential sitting there. And it's like, he gets deep with this, but it's like, you look around of like the person you could have become, what you could have accomplished, the person you could have dated, the relationship in life you could have had, but you were too scared to ask that person out. The fear of getting rejected, you never could have found the person that you've always wanted to be with. You never did that race, you never took that job, you never did that. And it's like all that stuff is wild. And like David Goggins is like the complete opposite of a lot of things that we're going in the direction of, but that like Goggins was working with cockroach, as a cockroach guy, like clean cockroaches, making $1,200 a month. One day just saw on the news something about being a Marine and a Navy SEAL. And it's just like, I'm going to flip my life around. 3 months, lost 100 pounds, boom, became a Navy SEAL. And that's like a person who he probably never thought he was going to become. But it's like he had to just act. Sometimes we think too much and we just don't start doing. And I think that's an important thing for people to take is New Year's is coming, 2024 is coming. Realize everything isn't going to be perfect. It's not going to flow really well. You're going to have failures. You're going to have ups and downs, especially in my world with the fitness world. But if you don't quit, you focus on consistency, not perfection. You focus on growth. You focus on improvement. And you just don't give up, right? You never give up. Then you can get to where you want to be. But you just can't give in to that part of your brain that wants to quit. Because it's going to happen. Your people, the human DNA does not like to be does not like uncomfortable, does not like physical discomfort, mental discomfort. So you're fighting your DNA and you're and you're fighting that natural anxiety that everybody has. but the more you can do it, the more comfortable you can get and the more successful you're going to be in whatever you're trying to do.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things for me is just like that I could, give advice for people. I'm a big quote guy, as you know. One of my biggest quotes aside from never give up is I think it might have been Walt Disney. Again, I don't know the person who, but dream, believe, achieve. You dream about it, you believe that you could do it, and then just achieve it. And my I'm my biggest NCAA wrestling coaching hero is uh, Chris Bono you know out of University of Wisconsin. He their motto as a team is hustle, effort, attitude. You got to hustle through things, have a good attitude, and give 100% effort. You could achieve anything you put your mind to. And just for anyone out there that's wondering if they can achieve their wildest dream, whatever it is, whatever you know whatever it may be, like if you're wondering and you're looking for that like sign or that person to tell you that you can, well, let me be that person to tell you that you can achieve anything you put your mind to. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not going to be easy. Just put your head down, write your goals down, be where your feet are, and just embrace the moment.
I
That's
think, yeah, I love it. And I think that's, before I end this, I think that's an awesome way to end it. But to add on to that one last thing, it's just because you want something doesn't mean it's going to happen. You have to put in the work, you have to act upon it. So I love the advice, writing it down. We both talked about that, believing in yourself, making a vision board, talking it into existence, like all that's amazing. But I think this because of all the work you put in to accomplish what the things you have, but you still got to put in the work. And I think a lot of people talk about doing a lot of things, but action speaks a lot. And you're not going to get there overnight, but you have to start taking action. If you want to do a marathon, could you survive it? You could. You could walk yourself through it and stuff, and it'd be brutal. But or if you want to, get promoted in a job, or you want to go back to school, or you want to do all these things, like it's a lot of people just talk about doing it, right? To how you brought up, and then finally there's got to be action, and then now you got to take that action and implement the work that needs to go in to get there, to get your degree, to get the promotion, to achieve your fitness goal, to change your life in whatever way. I think that's important is set the goal, challenge yourself, and then take action and then fully commit. You just got to fully commit all in, because if there's not a full commitment there and there's any doubt that you can't do it, it's going to lead to you probably not being successful because it's not that you won't have any doubt, but like there's got to be that why behind what you're doing. And there's got to be a bigger reason than just I want to do this, because there's going to be so many reasons and opportunities to quit in the process. So, no, man, I appreciate you talking about that, Lou. And I appreciate, coming on and having this conversation, because I think there's a ton of value on a lot of the things we kind of discussed today. And is there anything else you want to kind of leave with it?
honestly just shout out to my whole support system. I keep harping on it, I keep circling back to it, but just in the world that we live in today, so many people are just so caught up in you know the what ifs and the big things, which is great. It's good to be focused on the big picture, but just always remember to like thank your support system, to thank the people in your life, to let them know how much they appreciate or they are appreciated, because whether you know it or not, like you can be inspiring someone, without even knowing it, and hearing that you're hearing that like there's someone that you value and that you are inspired by can be like the you know extra push that they need to get through something that they might not even you know be vocalizing to anyone. It's just it takes a village to achieve greatness, and we just all have to keep putting one step in front of the other and just living life to our fullest capability and full potential. and amazing things yield from there. So
I love it, man. So we'll leave it there for today. I appreciate you coming on, Lou. We'll definitely do another for sure. And if anyone's listening, wants to get in contact with Lou, what's your IG? What is the best way to get to you?
on IG, I'm at Sweet Lou. It's Sweet LU, and then 1117, and then that's my Twitter handle as well. Yeah, just keep getting after it, and I can't wait to see what 2024 has for everyone, and let's just make it a year to never forget.
Love it, man. So anyone's listening, still listening now, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, and let's have an awesome 2024. I think this will be a few days into the year when this drops. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Please subscribe to the podcast. If you want to listen, check it out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, give it a follow. We'll be doing weekly podcasts dropping every Thursday morning. Till next time, guys, keep being a beast, chase discomfort. I'll see you guys later.